My brothers and sisters couldn't stand the bullying from me anymore, so I picked up a shovel and wanted to dig my mother out of the grave so that she could seek justice for me. My name is Michelle. My mother died when I was born, and my father is a famous local horse racer. Among the 10 children in my family, only I have never felt the love of my mother. My father chased me out and called me breathlessly. He didn't coax me, but asked me questions about horse racing.
Melbourne Cup 1965.
Lightfingers.
Jockey.
The Professor, Roy Higgins.
Unexpectedly, I answered them all fluently. My father saw my love for horse racing and promised to take me to the horse farm to ride horses tomorrow. That night, I was so excited that I almost didn't sleep all night. At night, I quietly slipped out of the room and ran to the stable to sleep. I felt that it was warmer there than at home. The next day, I rode a horse for the first time. The wind whistled past my ears. At that moment, I knew I belonged here. But my father didn't think highly of me. He said that was not something a girl should do. Horse racing is a man's world, and strength is the key to victory or defeat. It's not that he doesn't love me, but he doesn't believe that women can do it. That year, the eldest sister won the first place in the competition, but Dad let the elder brother, who only got the second place, represent the family in the Melbourne Cup. I was so angry and felt it was too unfair. Even my brother with intellectual disabilities believed that women can only be vases on the horse field. Others expect boys to win, but girls' dreams are never taken seriously. 10 years have passed in a blink of an eye, and I have never given up. Whenever my sister competes, I skip classes and run to the toilet to eavesdrop on my sister's competition. The teacher also criticized me, but that made me more determined. I want to be a real professional jockey. So I dropped out of school and went home to learn equestrianism from my father. My father taught me that I must be familiar with the grass before the competition, because the softness and hardness of the grass will affect the speed of the horse. The lungs determine the speed, the heart determines the endurance, and the horse's character and explosive power are the real key to victory or defeat. My brothers always say that strength is everything, but I know that for a jockey, posture and technique are more important. I don't have their height and muscles, but I have eyes, judgment, and a heart that never gives up. Finally, the first race arrived, but the reality was far more cruel than I imagined. The male jockeys were talking and laughing in the clean and tidy locker room, while I could only curl up in the shabby canteen. There was no separate bathroom, so I had to take a bath with a group of big men. At the end of the race, I took the last place, and my father planned to let me go back to school. But I didn't give up. I competed one after another, fell again and again, and got up again and again. Finally, one day, I defeated all the male jockeys and stood in the first place. But before I had time to celebrate, I received the bad news. My eldest sister fell off the horse and died. She was the first professional female jockey in this country and the person I always admired the most. I thought many times about what she looked like on the day she put on the honor for me, but I never thought that she would leave forever. Dad changed completely. He no longer let me get on the horse. He was afraid of losing another daughter. I can understand him, but I can't give up on myself. No matter how much I begged my father, he still refused to let me go riding again. At that moment, I couldn't bear it anymore. We had a big fight and ran away from home in anger. He didn't chase me out. I think he was probably thinking, when I have suffered enough from society, I will come back in disgrace. I went to a horse farm in the suburbs alone with great expectations, hoping to make a way on my own. But in reality, how could it be so simple? Without a family background, I couldn't even get in the door. I could only stand at the door and watch the door for others. I saw with my own eyes the male rider who lost to me in the competition chatting with the owner of the horse farm, and I felt very uncomfortable. The next day I deceived the groom and ran straight to the track, thinking, this time they should see my strength, right? I plucked up the courage to go to the coach, hoping that he would give me a chance to play officially.
That depends on whether you give me one.
Turned away angrily and decided to go to my sister. When my father heard that I was still riding, he felt distressed and helpless. He knew that he couldn't persuade me, so he secretly found an agent for me. This agent desperately called and recommended me to horse owners one after another, but no one was willing to hire a female jockey. Finally, a horse owner in the lowest league gave me a chance. In this way, my professional career began. I competed one after another, won again and again, and left the male riders behind. behind. From the lowest level of competition, I made it all the way to the first league. On the day of my debut, I did not forget the first lesson my father taught me. My father didn't come, but I knew he must be watching me in front of the TV. When the game started, I held my breath and held the reins tightly. I won the first place, but my father didn't laugh. He just lowered his head and sighed. He knew that I was competing in the most dangerous way. The first time I saw my father again after leaving home was at my sister's wedding. I walked towards him, step by step in the crowd, hoping that he would praise me. But he turned around and walked away and looked at the photos of my mother and elder sister. Perhaps only they in heaven would support me. I understand why my father does not support me, but it does not mean that I can give up my dream. At this time, the organizing committee came to me and said that if I wanted to participate in the next competition, I had to lose 10 pounds within a week. I agreed immediately, but only those who have really lost weight know how painful it is. I wrapped my whole body with plastic sheeting and kept running and jumping in the steam room. My eyes were black, but I could still grit my teeth and persist. On the day of the competition, I barely met the standard and rode on the racehorse with exhausted body. At the beginning of the competition, I was in the lead all the way. But just before the sprint, my body finally couldn't hold on, and I fell heavily to the ground. In front of the TV, my father's hands couldn't stop shaking. His face was paler than mine. He regretted that he didn't be tougher and pull me back from this dangerous road. After the doctor finished the operation for me, my father gently put my mother's necklace on my hand and sat motionless by the bed. Pray that I can wake up. Fortunately, I woke up, but my language system was blocked. I couldn't even count the number of fingers of the nurse, and I couldn't even say my own name. Just when I was about to be swallowed by despair,
Who won the 1983 Melbourne Cup?
Kiwi.
Colours?
Crimson, black, white, sleeve.
You've got to ask some questions that you might at least be interested in.
as if he was back to that night a long time ago, in the stable, the day he took me riding for the first time. He always knew how to pull me up from the deepest valley. During the rehabilitation training, the doctor told me that if my brain was injured again, it might be fatal. But I only care about when I can ride a horse again. That day, I was still recovering at home, and my mood was once at the bottom. A familiar horse ran over slowly, gently rubbed me with its nose, and woke me up from my muddle-headed state. It was it, my old partner, our comrade in arms. I gritted my teeth and trembled to stand up, holding the saddle and riding on it. This was the first time I really smiled after the injury, and I felt alive again. My father stood in the distance, looking at me staggering on the horse's back with a complicated expression. There was worry in his eyes. As soon as I recovered, I thought about returning to the racetrack. Unsurprisingly, my whole family was against it, but this time Dad didn't side with them. He chose to support me.
Little girl's made up her mind. There's no one here or in heaven that can make her change it.
When I returned to the race course, I immediately fell in love with the racehorse named Prince. Prince had been seriously injured, and no one was optimistic about him. He was just like me at that time, forgotten by the world, but still standing stubbornly. We ran together on the beach, finding the rhythm in the waves. Later, we went out side by side, participated in 3,200 games together, won 361 times, fell 7 times, and broke bones 16 times. We experienced too much and defeated too many top male riders. Finally, we got the qualification to participate in the world's highest event, the Melbourne Cup. But at this time, the organizing committee suddenly announced that I would be banned from 20 games because I was suspected of dangerous competition. The next day, the directors decided to replace me with a male rider. They didn't believe that a woman could win the championship. When I heard their decision, I rushed into the restaurant angrily and scolded them for being a bunch of idiots. Unexpectedly, the big boss was moved by my unyielding courage and confidence. As the only woman in the history of the Melbourne Cup, the huge pressure suffocated me. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was a text message from my father. A simple word of encouragement went through my heart like a warm current. On the day of the competition, I dressed up and walked into the hall of my dreams. But almost no one around me was optimistic about me, and the odds of winning were an astonishing 999 to 1. The boss said to me, "It's good to be in the top 10, but I was not satisfied. I didn't come to participate in the competition, I came to win. Only my family and friends bet on me to win. without hesitation. I held the necklace around my neck tightly, feeling the encouragement of my mother and eldest sister. Facing the ridicule of the male players, I smiled and responded, "I will invite you when the celebration party is held." The starting gun sounded, and 24 horses rushed out like arrows. I made a mistake at the start and was left far behind. The big boss looked solemn and seemed to regret his decision. But my father in front of the TV looked indifferent. He taught me that the starting position cannot determine the final victory or defeat. There was only 100 meters left in the race, and there was finally a gap between the two horses in front of me. I knew this was my chance. I heard my father's voice ringing in my ears and heard every word of instruction in the past. I gritted my teeth, whipped the horse to speed up, went around the outside line, and broke through the blockade in one fell swoop. Among all the horses, I rushed to the front. I won! I became the champion! At this moment, the whole place was boiling. Everyone was cheering for me. They forgot who they bet on. They were cheering for history and miracles. They witnessed with their own eyes the birth of the first female champion in the Melbourne Cup in 155 years. I went home and put the heavy trophy on the table full of family trophies. Dad came over, gently took the trophy away, and placed it in front of the photos of my mother and eldest sister. I walked on the race course with my father, back to the place where my dream began. There was familiar soil under my feet and the scorching sun above my head. I knew that I was no longer the girl who needed others to prove it.